Hello, everyone. We will wait 2 more minutes for everyone to join. Thank you. I think we can start. Hello, everyone. Welcome and thank you for your interest in our initiative, Present Me Your National Power System. My name is Laura. I am part of the NGN Romania, and I would like to share a little bit of background on this project, which we are very excited about. This initiative is coordinated by NGN Romania, and we are already at the fifth edition. The main idea behind it was to give specialists a global view of different national power systems, from the energy mix and technologies they use to how the energy market is actually structured. Our goal is to host on a monthly basis a different country that presents its national power system. So far, we had the pleasure of welcoming colleagues from Italy, from Colombia, from Hungary, and Serbia. We are also really happy to see growing interest from other national committees that want to join our future networks, our future sessions, including also Australia, Japan, Czech Republic, Slovakia, and also Turkey. Today, we are pleased to have with us NGN Belgium as the presenting country. They will present us their national power system, and they will for sure share their experience, challenges, and also innovations. Before we start, feel free to think about your questions. You can either write them in the chat during the presentation, or you can keep them for the Q&A session at the end. Now I would like to hand over to Sebastian from NGL Belgium, who is part of ELIA, the Belgian TSO. He will share for sure more insights into the project and the perspective from Belgium. Thank you again and enjoy the session.
Hi, everybody. I hope you hear me well. So I'm Sebastian. Thanks, Laura, for the introduction. I work for Elia. I'm part of the innovation team, leading a portfolio of projects linked to system operations. So mainly working with the NCC, both in Belgium and Germany. So I got the chance to present the Belgian power grid um, to you. Thanks, CIGRE, for that. And here we go. So, uh, Belgium is a small country at the center of Europe. We have a lot of interconnections, and we are at the heart of our very own energy transition. However, as you will see, this paradigm shift in the grid does not come for free. We have many operational challenges that we must overcome to ensure sustainable, stable evolution of the grid. So during the coming sorry, not hours, I will guide you through some of these challenges and Elia's response to it. And hopefully, at the end of this presentation, you will see that our country is not only good at making chocolate, let's say. So let me guide you through the agenda. First, we will begin with the context of the Belgian power system, its history, and also some key technical features. Then the next chapter will go about the electricity demand and the energy mix. So demand and production, its current status, but also its forecasted evolution. Then some key infrastructure projects that we are leading to ensure our energy transition. Some also key operational challenges that we experience in the control room, and with a special focus on the 3 summers that we will have without nuclear, which was at the core of many discussions over the last few months in the NCC. And lastly, I will finish with some grid planning, meaning how we plan on integrating power electronics on the grid. So let's get into it. First, some of the context, so history and key features. The Belgian power system was born around end of 19th century, beginning of 20th. But what's noticeable is during the first 50 years, so it was a fragmented grid developed by local entities, municipalities, and other stakeholders. And we built the first interconnection to stabilize it. What was a key turn was World War II, where during the reconstruction, so to power households, also to allow reconstruction for new industries to come to Belgium, we needed to drastically implement and increment our grid. So we created a national grid. Second, so for almost 40 years, the grid expanded around some key locations, so mainly the nuclear power stations, where they had multiple roles, so producers, but also transmission and distribution operators. So they were really owner of the whole value chain of electricity. And then we also had during this period the emergence of European grid, where in 1990, more or less, so we had some European directives to enforce the unbundling of activities, so meaning opening the market, competition is open and non-discriminatory, and fair access to the grid. So no monopoly anymore. As of 2001, Elia was created, which was then signed a contract with the Belgian government to become the Belgian TSO. So we took over the Belgian grids and to transmit its electricity, and also to ensure its security, meaning supply-demand balance, and also supply-demand balance. Sorry. And also another turn in the history of Elia was in 2010 when we purchased a majority of the stakes at 50 Hertz. So we were not only a national TSO, but now international TSO at European level. And we became a key player in the European energy transition. So let's get into the some technical features and characteristics of our grid. So Belgium is a rather small country. We have only one TSO, which is enough, but we have 7 DSOs. So we have one in Flanders. It's such since more or less 7 years, I would say. Before that, we had many different DSOs as well. One in Brussels, and 5 in Wallonia. The frequency is at 50 Hertz, so we are part of the Central Europe synchronous area. We have 8 different voltage levels. That's quite a lot. So we handle 400 kV. That's mainly for a feature for HVDC. We have 380 kV, 220, 150, 110, 70, 36, and down to 30 kV. We have 807 substations on the grid with 3,300 kilometers of underground cables and 5,500 kilometers of overhead lines. Together, it comes down to 8,800 kilometers, which is quite a lot for a small country. I looked it up, and actually 8,800 kilometers is, if you put it end to end, you can reach Mexico City from Brussels or even the northwest region of India. That's quite a distance. So we have one NCC and 2 RCCs. I'll expand a bit later on that. And we have 9 interconnections with neighboring countries, including 2 HVDC links. One is relies us to the UK and the other one to Germany. Let's dig into the operators. So we have 3 different levels in Belgium. The first one is the NCC. The NCC is the National Control Center located in Brussels. They supervise very high voltage grid security, so meaning they handle their security, but also their switchings from 400 kV until 150, but not the whole 150 kV grids. They handle the main flux lines. They're in charge of balancing and market operations. They also manage international flows, and as I already said, they switch all the very high voltage gear. The RCC, however, they supervise grid security, but on lower voltage levels, meaning 30 kV up until 150, but then non-primary linear assets. They're in charge of the switching operations, and they're also in touch with the field operators when they are switching, performing maintenance work, or, for example, commissioning of new assets. And at the end of the chain, depending on the chain, but we have Coreso. For those of you who don't know what Coreso is, that's a regional security coordinator supporting TSOs for cross-borders exchange. Let's say they coordinate network security, they check the flows and the balances. So Belgium is part of Coreso. So it's a data handling European common grid models. They have coordinated security analysis, regional capacity calculations, short and medium-term adequacy services, meaning how the grid will evolve, and outage planning coordination between different TSOs. So in a nutshell, that's a little bit about the context of the Belgian grid. So let's switch to the next chapter, the electricity demand and energy mix. So let's see about the current status. So these are numbers for from 2025 and how we forecast the evolution of those numbers. But first, as I don't know the background of everybody in the audience, maybe a quick peek of the energy transition in the eyes of European, let's say European policies. So in Europe, we tackle the climatic crisis through 3 different stages. The first one is in 2030, getting closer. So we have to reduce minimum 55% of our net emission. These are the directives. By 2040, we aim at having 90% reduction of those emissions. And in 2050, we aim at being the first climate neutral continent. That's quite an assignment. And the TSOs have a role to play in here. So the mandate of a TSO is to have competitive and coupled market, of course, to provide relevant and state-of-the-art infrastructure to be able to provide services to its customers, and also to integrate renewable energy, which is a key enabler to reach climate neutrality. and acting as a trusted service providers for stakeholders, as I mentioned, with the infrastructure. So all in all, European TSOs are at the heart of the energy transition. So with this in mind, there are two key messages that I want to vehiculate today. The first one is that the grid cannot be the bottleneck of the energy transition. That's something we often hear, and that's a motivation for a TSO. So the technology must be mature enough so it can be directly integrated when needed. And secondly, there is a need for collaboration and expertise sharing between the TSO. That's something that we see more and more lately. We are not competitors, but we have the same problematic and aim at having a sustainable grid. Just the way to reach our objectives are sometimes different depending on resources, priorities, grid topology, and so on. So synergies can help accelerate the energy transition, but also to drive down costs. Affordability is at the heart of many discussion, and it's really something that we are aiming for lately. Introduction done. Let's dig into the current status of the power demand in Belgium. So what's interesting here, maybe I'll put the laser pointer. So first, the total load of Elia. What's interesting here is to see that an overall decrease is perceived. So the first reference period was between 2017 and 2021, where we see that an average consumption is higher than what we have today, which is around 80 terawatt hour. So we see kind of a decrease. Here I wrote that it remains stable because there is no big gap. And on the monthly normalized total electricity demand, we see that over 1 year we have peaks in winters, which is quite normal, and downs in summer. So we have on average 10.5 gigawatts in the winter. But what's good to know is that we have a daily peak in the winter in 2025, which was at 14 gigawatts, which is quite a lot. So that's about the current status. Now, what about the evolution? So we see that the load knows a downturn, but Elia expects this downturn to be a temporary phenomenon before seeing a significant increase due to the electrification of society. So our current commitments and ambitions is to reach 150% electrifications by 2032. To reach, meaning to be able to absorb that kind of electrification. To go even one step further, many studies show that the electrification can reach double the amount of today by 2050. So energy transition is very much there and it's fast. What about the electricity mix? So how do we produce electricity in Belgium? So we are shifting more and more towards renewable energy to answer the European ambitions and objectives as stated 2 to 3 slides ago. As we can see here roughly is that nuclear makes up for a third of the production, whereas renewable as well. Renewable are the blue and the yellow one, and here the dark blue one is the gas. But let's go a little bit more in the numbers. So for solar generation, we see a sharp increase in production from one day to the other. Yeah, 12% against 15% the next year. That's a sharp increase. We have increased the installed capacity by 11 gigawatts. No, we have a total of 11 gigawatts, sorry, but we had favorable sunny weather conditions last year, so we were able to produce a lot via solar production. Second is, of course, with wind generation. It also increased in installed capacity, but we see here that the numbers are quite stable. It's because poor weather condition. We had low levels of wind in 2025. Now nuclear. So we had nuclear shutdowns in 2025. 3 of them were shut down. We have 2 remaining active out of 7. But we still see that nuclear production makes up for a third of the energy mix. Second point is the gas generation. That's quite interesting because Belgium is now investing in new gas turbines, but for a rapid compensation mechanism. Whereas we can see here that the numbers are quite stable, even with respect to the reference period that I mentioned earlier, so 2017, 2021, we see that the amount is even lower. So we increase the capacity. But what happens is that lately the gas price is so high that it's cheaper for Elia, so for society in Belgium, to import the gigawatts. Hence, now the last point is the imports and exports. Belgium in 2025 was a net importer of 14 terawatt hour in 2025. As I said, we can see here that we have connections with neighboring countries. I'll circle back to that later. So with the United Kingdom, Netherlands importing a lot from Netherlands and France, so 10 terawatt hour, but we also have exports in Germany and Luxembourg. So that's the status of last year, but how do we plan on the grid to evolve? Following our adequacy and flexibility study, we expect an overall increase of the installed power of renewable energy sources. So the installed capacity in solar is today around 12 gigawatts. As I mentioned earlier, 11,6, but we can say 12. And we have a planned increase of 1 gigawatt per year. That's quite huge. If you remember correctly, I said that the peak last year was at 14 gigawatts. Let's say that theoretically, in 2 years, we could, our highest peak, power it solely by solar energy. With, of course, the challenges that come with it. I do not say that it's the option that in 2028 we will be powered solely but by solar, but theoretically it would be possible because of the sharp increase in solar generation. Whereas for onshore wind generation, we can see that the annual growth here, so forecasted annual growth of 0.4 gigawatts hour per year, is double the size of the one here that we had over the last 15 years. That's how we expect the grid to evolve. But let's not talk about production mix without mentioning offshore wind, of course. So we also invest in offshore wind production. So with the nuclear phase out, we need additional hosting capacity of offshore wind. This was enabled through two waves. The first one is the modular offshore grid, so MOG1, where we installed 1.6 gigawatts in the North Sea. Secondly, we have second wave coming, which is through the Princess Elizabeth Island, so the energy island, where we plan on reaching additional 3.5 gigawatts of offshore wind in two different phases. The first one is 2.1 gigawatts, which will be added more or less by 2030 in AC. And the second phase is 1.4 gigawatts, which will be added by 2032 in asynchronous AC connection. So let's these are a lot of figures, but what we can remember as key messages here is that we have a significant increase in expected electricity demands. So we have this objective within Elia, which is 50% increase by 2032, driven by the electrification of industry, transport, so e-mobility and so on, and the heating. So we can see sharp increase that is forecasted. Secondly, we have a paradigm shift in production where we see an overall increase in renewables, so almost times two, even beyond, of solar PV, offshore winds, and onshore wind and offshore wind. So these are, to summarize, the energy mix in Belgium. What about the grid infrastructure? So these are the main projects, not the main ones, but I selected 3 key projects that Elia is pursuing to allow the grid transformation and the absorption of the energy transition. The first one, and I briefly mentioned it already, is of course the Princess Elizabeth Islands. The purpose of this project is to create an energy hub to connect large-scale North Sea winds. As I mentioned, we are phasing out nuclear. We need additional gigawatts, and offshore wind is a very reliable source of energy. So facilitates also the future cross-border offshore integration. As you might know, in Europe, we are currently aiming to enable the objective of 2050 to be climate neutral. It requires us to install between 400 and 450 gigawatts in offshore wind. A key enabler for this shift in production is, of course, development of HVDC and hubs such as the ones drafted during the Energy Hub project, so the Princess Elizabeth Islands. So what is it concretely? It's an artificial energy island hosting offshore substations and HVDC connections. So it's basically a multi-plug that you can put in the North Sea where theoretically several countries can come and connect themselves. So what is its role in the system? It acts as a system interface between offshore generation, so wind production, the Belgian grid, of course, and neighboring countries such as all the neighboring countries of Belgium, so UK, Netherlands, even able to connect potentially the Nordic countries to get a hydro-powered electricity. What's the value of these projects? Why do we do it? So it would enable massive offshore capacity. It would add some flexibility to the grid and long-term European offshore meshed grid concepts, as I just mentioned with the 2050 objectives of ELIA. What's special about this project? It is one of the first multifunctional offshore energy hubs worldwide. Okay, second project is the HTLS 300 kV, so it's the high temperature, low sag kind of conductors. Why did I pick this project? Because it finds itself in the vertical reinforcement story, meaning that we try to expand less but transports more electricity. So meaning in Belgium, we are a super small country with limited footprint. So we try to reuse as much as possible the existing assets and just to increase their capacity of transporting electricity. This is a really good project for an example. So what is its purpose? It's to increase the transmission capacity without building new lines. How do we do it? So by using high performance conductors, replacing conventional ones on existing pylons. So we just increase the functionalities of the conductors while keeping the same footprint and same infrastructure. What's the role in the system? It can deliver fast capacity uplift on critical corridors of the Belgian grid. The value, of course, is the low footprint, faster deployments, optimal for congested or constrained area. And what would be a key benefit is the capacity increase, which will be up by 50 to 70%. And thirdly, that's another kind of development axis that I chose. So it finds also itself in the story of power electronics integration. So batteries, wind turbines, data centers, so the electrification of the grid. So as a brief summary, the more we add power electronics, the more we observe new phenomena on the grid. But to observe those, we need monitoring systems. And PMU WAMS are those systems that we need to set on the grid, to connect on the grid, to be able to monitor and then mitigate those new phenomena. So what's the purpose of this project? Is to improve real-time observability of the transmission system. What is it concretely? It's a deployment of synchronized PMUs across the grid to feed wide area monitoring platform. So it's the WAMS. System role, it will provide high resolution, time synchronized measurements of different technical characteristics of the grids for mitigation actions. What's the value of it? It enables early detections of instabilities. And the long-term vision, so it's the foundation for advanced system protection, also dynamic security assessment and future automation of the grid. So these were the three main projects I wanted to show. Of course, there are many more. I planned other ones in my presentation, but in the interest of time, I'm not going to talk about them, but I could talk about it for hours. But now that we know, so the history of the grids, some key features, the energy mix, so the current status, but also the planned evolution, and some of the critical infrastructure projects that Elia put in place to ensure this energy transition. Let's dig into how Belgium operates the system. So, the first one is let's talk about cross-border flows. So Belgium is a small country between France, Luxembourg, Germany, Netherlands, UK. So it's highly interconnected. It's a transit system. So it is structurally designed for cross-border operations. So we are directly connected to the neighboring countries I just mentioned, and we have above 6 gigawatts of cross-border capacity, meaning that we are really a central hub in Europe, allowing power flows from north to south, east to west. Also, we have strategic HVDC interconnections. I already briefly mentioned those, but the first existing one is the Nemo link. It connects us to the UK. It enables for the continental region of Europe to be connected to the UK in an asynchronous way, meaning that HVDC is independent of the frequency. Of course, it's in the definition, meaning that we do not have to be synchronous with the UK. Second one is Allegro. It's also a capacity of 1 gigawatt and it connects us to Germany. So this link was first designed to be able to decongest a little bit Germany, but also to provide their wind production to the rest of Europe. So yeah, it's to facilitate this transport. Thirdly, we are the heart of Europe. So the energy flows through Belgium, not only serving national demands, as I just mentioned with the wind production of Germany. We didn't build the HVDC just to get everything for us. It's, of course, to transmit it to the rest of Europe. So I mentioned already the north and south and east and west European flows, and also it's for controllability of the grid. We have frequent congestions and strong coordinations is needed with neighboring TSOs. A parallel can be made, for example, with traffic jams in Belgium. If you ever cross our country to go on vacation to France, for example, yeah, check your GPS beforehand because it might be congested. It's just same with electricity. A lot of flows go through Belgium and we experience a lot of congestion on our grid. So we have a central role in offshore wind evacuation. I mentioned it already, so with production in Germany. And lastly, I have here a graph showing that the trend on the imports and exports. We see that as of 2032, between 2032 and 2033, 23, sorry, Belgium is increasingly becoming a net importer of energy. Well, as I showed, because we have less production in nuclear and we compensate slowly with renewable energy sources. That was the first operational challenge, so to manage all these cross-border flows that are not solely for the purpose of national energy supply. Second operational challenge that I want to address today is the incompressibility. So it's a phenomena. Yeah, in a nutshell, it's a nightmare for grid operators. So what's the definition of incompressibility? So the electricity cannot be compressed, buffered, or queued in the grid. So at every moment, the generation must instantaneously match consumption. So any imbalance immediately translates into flows, frequency deviations, and network stress. Of course, we don't want that. So a brief example of incompressibility is the solar generation and forecast. So if we have several gigawatts of solar PV suddenly produce more or less than expected, so if we have a deviation with respect to the forecast, then the energy cannot be stored in the grids and it must be exported, curtailed, or compensated immediately. But it's even more true when I showed you the trend of the energy mix. So nowadays we have 12 gigawatts of solar production, with an expected growth of 1 gigawatt per year. So forecasts become increasingly important for our grid management in Belgium. So when we have poor forecast, we must export the excess of electricity, but exporting gigawatts at a short notice is very complex, to not say impossible. Neighboring systems and interconnections have limited capacity. I showed you that the interconnections of Belgium have a capacity of more or less 6 gigawatts, and congestion and redispatch cost increase. So, in a nutshell, because electricity is incompressible, forecasting errors turn instantly into operational constraints. So that was the second challenge I wanted to talk to you about. The third one is about voltage management. So it's really important. So voltage management is so the voltage control takes even more importance where we're in the situation of nuclear phase out. So we lose large synchronous machines, hence we have a reduced inherent reactive power capability. So operating the grids closer to its limit also has its impacts on the voltage levels. So we operate the grids close to its physical constraint, we load it more and more, and so we have less operational margins for voltage control. And also, the third factor that's influencing the voltage control is the decentralized generation and self-consumption. So we have more and more PV and wind farms at the distribution side, and also self-consumption, meaning they produce and they consume what they produce. So we have a lower load for the TSOs, and meaning that we have a lower active power flows in our transmission lines. It means that the voltage rises. As you can see here on the map, it's also interesting. We see that Belgium is in red, of course, and we exceed the thresholds of 420 kV. That's European requirements that we cannot exceed this value, and on some location we see that we exceed it. I'll show you there are some mitigations to that, of course. So the risk of all of these factors is of exceeding operational voltage limits. So meaning that the insulation distances are not big enough anymore. So problems of safety, but also aging of the assets. Luckily, there are some mitigation levers. So the first one, so we have remaining synchronous generators and condensers that we can use to absorb or generate reactive power. Second, we are in a rollout of installing more and more shunt reactors in Belgium. And thirdly, we can set some batteries in STATCOM modes. I will talk about batteries a bit later, but we can change them in STATCOM mode and providing asking them to provide solely reactive power. That was the third operational challenge I wanted to talk about. Of course, there are not only 3 of them, there are many more, but in the interest of time, I will also stay at 3 maximum. Now let's dive into a specific topic that the Belgian National Control Center kept close to its chest the last few months. So we will experience 3 summers without nuclear. So it's an unprecedented period in Belgium where we will have no nuclear generation. So what is the context? So at first our government said, hey guys, we are going out of nuclear, so nuclear phase out. Then they changed their mind and they said, no guys, finally we keep 2 of them, the healthy ones, but we need to push their life expectancy until 2035. Okay, easier said than done, but mostly we have to shut down these reactors to give them 10 additional years to live. So we call that refurbishments of Doel 4 and Tihange 3. So they are needed to prepare to run until 2035. So they will be out during 3 consecutive summers. Why during the summers? Because as I showed you with the load profile, energy consumption is lower in the summer, so less risk for the grid. So Belgium will face unprecedented periods without nuclear, while renewable energy keeps growing with its inherent challenges. And so therefore, ELIA conducted a dedicated grid security assessment for this period of reduced system strength. You can see here that from 2022, Belgium is slowly phasing out of nuclear until keeping the last 2 ones, so Tihange 3 and Doel 4. And here we will have 3 summers without any nuclear generation before going back to normal, let's say. So yeah, we have some kind of observation as well during this study. So due to the replacement of synchronous machines with power converters, in integration of renewables, a similar reduction in system strength is being observed in the south of the Netherlands and the west of Germany, meaning we are not alone of having to have lower system stability. So grid stability has thus become a broad challenge that requires analysis and cooperation beyond national borders. And now we circle back to the slide of European ambition, where I said we need more and more synergies between TSOs. We have the same problems, just different ways of reaching them, but communication is key. So I will not go through the whole study, but let's share the main results. So ELIA conducted a dedicated grid security assessment. So the first one saying that thanks to its strong interconnections with neighboring countries, especially France, the absence of nuclear power does not pose a risk to grid stability. Secondly, despite the temporary increase in voltage pressure, the NCC implemented appropriate measures to remain within operational limits and retains the option to start up additional units as backup if needed. So we have backup plan, basically. Third one, although stability margins are decreasing, the Belgian energy mix and robust interconnections enable the grid to face unexpected shocks. So we are able to absorb any faults on the grid. And lastly, the overall reduction of stability margins will require close operational attention at the NCC in collaboration with neighboring TSO and grid users. So this last sentence is echoing to what I just said. So we see that according to calculation, stability is okay. We identified a few hiccups on the grid, but they're already being mitigated. But we have a growing dependency on France, and the stability margins are melting. So for the moment, it's good, but what do we do on the long term? So this is a study, this is a nice sandbox to prepare for integration of more renewable and actual nuclear phase out in 2035. Okay, let's briefly dig into the last chapter about power electronification of the grid. So the first topic is actually quite interesting. So Belgium has a structural deficit in terms of renewable energy sources potential. So Europe has set ambitious climate and decarbonization targets that Belgium fully supports. However, we face a structural limitation in domestic renewable energy potential. So as shown earlier during this presentation, Belgium is increasingly becoming an importer, and that's a part of the justification. So we have inherent structural constraints in Belgium. We cannot integrate as much as offshore wind as we want because we have a limited access to the sea. If you can see on the map, we have very limited access to the sea here. And also, it's a small country with a really high density of population, meaning we do not have a lot of space on the ground. What does it imply? That electrification increases demand while local renewable energy sources remain constrained. So we have the electrification of 150% by 2032, but we can maybe not sustain it only with our own renewable energy sources. So it means that Belgium becomes structurally more reliant on cross-border electricity exchanges, thanks to our local thanks to our geographical position. We have already many interconnections, but we have to use them also to import more and more. Thirdly, climate neutrality cannot be achieved on a national-only basis. So meaning we need other countries to provide us with renewable energy sources. So what's the message? With limited domestic renewable energy sources potential, Belgium relies on HVDC and European integration to import green electricity, green electrons, and reach climate neutrality. That's the first message I wanted to show. The second one is about the batteries, as promised earlier. So Elia adopted a fast-track approach with respect to the RFG, so requirements for generators 2.0, that is being drafted by NSOE. Why? So that's a short explanation. So the current trend is that in Belgium, nowadays, we plan on having 7 gigawatts by 2029. These are the numbers here. So we plan on having a huge peak in batteries connected on the grid with 5.2 gigawatts on TSO level. So also with integration and power electronification of the grid, we will know periods of low system strength, and also because of renewable integration, but also because synchronous machines are more progressively phased out. Thirdly, that's a motivation that the retrofitting of the legacy power electronics, so the power electronics that's already on the grid, is not capable of grid forming, meaning they are incapable of dictating how the grid should behave, so they cannot behave such as synchronous machines. So meaning we will have lots of inertia, for example, of frequency support, voltage supports, and so on. So, and if we have to later on do a retrofitting of those assets to make them grid forming ready, it means that we will have to invest massively on the grid. And that is why the NCC, so National Control Center in Belgium, adopted a fast track approach. So the motivations are as followed. The longer we wait, the more grid-following batteries will proliferate, increasing system risks that could lead to significant additional retrofit costs to society. Like other European TSOs, Elia cannot wait for RFG 2.0 of NSOE. So what is this project about? It's an early draft of connection requirements for batteries with grid-forming capabilities. So they are actively working on it, planning on publishing these requirements by end 2026. Secondly, and making them mandatory. It's also quite important. And so the goals is to increase the withstand capacity, so voltage and frequency, and also to have batteries to actually support the system while synchronous machines are being phased out. So basically, grid forming is a mature technology. So why not integrate it today in order to avoid over-investing in the future on retrofitting actions? So it's in the spirit of optimizing the costs for society. All right, so that sums up a little bit what I wanted to say. Some key messages. So as promised at the beginning of the presentation, Belgium is not just good at chocolate. So the first key message is that we sit at the heart of European power grid, serving as a key hub and enabling efficient power flows across the continent. Secondly, we have strong grid interconnections, and they are crucial for us to progress to climate neutrality. By 2032, we expect to double our installed renewable energy sources, and also at the same time, we aim at being ready to absorb a 50% increase in electrification. We are massively deploying renewable energy sources while maintaining the grid stability through ambitious project portfolio. As you can see, as you saw, so vertical reinforcement, offshore winds, also monitoring of the grid. And lastly, Belgium is committed to meeting European ambitions by addressing operational challenges and ensuring a reliable, sustainable energy future. So, as we can say, I'll say it orally, but not written. In Belgium, we try to keep the lights on, but our main focus is to keep the beer cold, let's say. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Sebastian. Very, very interesting presentation. Great
Thanks.
insights about the Belgium national power system. I see that your power systems goes through a really challenging period right now, but I'm sure you will manage to keep the lights on. I see you are prepared for all scenarios. You have the right technology and for sure the qualified experts in Elia.
Thanks.
Thank you a lot for the presentation, and now I am starting the Q&A session. Are there any